Howdy, folks. Happy Thursday. It's a rainy day in Buffalo, windy. Russ, I always love it in the fall and the winter when I wake up in the morning on garbage day and see the garbage flying down the street.
It's not happening here, but it is blustery here.
Yeah, it's like the street that I live on is sort of like a wind tunnel. There's a creek on the right one side, and the wind even though the garbage cans are full with garbage, the wind is
not enough.
Boom. Wow. I mean, you probably have to put bricks in the bottom of it but then the bricks get thrown away, and what the hell?
Right.
So, but yeah, no, it was. Thankfully, I wasn't the one had to run all down the street and pick up plastic cups.
We had rain all day yesterday. Now I understand places like Long Island and places by the water are going to get this bomb cyclone thing. Luckily, we didn't get that. So
I wonder if the Yankees game is in danger again today.
I mean, it could be, but they're close enough to it. It all depends how it breaks and when it hits.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything, so we'll discuss that.
We know the Yankees, they'll wait until was it an 8:00 game?
Yeah, this is strictly under Major League Baseball.
Yeah, whatever. They'll wait till 7:45. They're known for that. Actually, I will say this: last couple of years, they've gotten a little better about it because they've taken intense scrutiny. So I would say the last 2 years, they've actually gotten better at calling games. Before that, they were awful.
Yeah, no,
and the Phillies are awful too. Like they're one of the worst.
They open the gates at 5:00 for 7:00 game. They let everybody get loaded up in hot dogs and beer, and then they cancel the game.
Yeah.
Okay, pre-show. Go ahead.
All right. So there was a game, and it was a AAA game. I don't know where it was. SF Gate covered it, and basically they're using and they're attempting to use the robot strike zone.
Okay, robot umpires.
Yeah, well, it's not a robot umpire because there's still a human home plate umpire behind there calling what the pitch track thing tells him to do.
Okay.
So the guy throws a pitch, and it looks like, a curveball with a heavy-sized rotation on it. Definitely not a strike. If people want to watch the video, just go to sfgate.com. You'll see it. Or you can go to my Facebook page. Watch the thing. You'll see it's not a strike, but the umpire just goes strike because now he's a robot. And right, because, he's not allowed to do anything. He's got to go with what this thing says. And the player argues and gets thrown out by the human umpire. And this is exactly what will happen if we let these robot umpires into Major League Baseball. It's going to be awful.
Yeah, that's a little better.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, no. I mean, everybody thinks that these things will eliminate the Earl Weavers and the Billy Martins and things of that nature. Now you could see managers just getting into arguments with the umpires over the totally inane, over the things like, I mean, I know that it was Aaron Boone, and I know it was a strike zone situation during the regular season. This is the thing where he said we're a bunch of savages and all that baloney. Yeah. But the thing is that the strike zone could still they still have the freedom to interpret. It's like
it doesn't seem like they do.
Well, if that's the case, so I'm sorry then. If that's not the case, if they're completely locked in to what the computer calls a strike.
I think they are in AAA, the league that's doing it. Maybe it's the Arizona Fall League because this time of year. I think they are because they're testing it.
Okay.
But the idea is this. That was a major league curveball, right? Mm-hmm. We've seen some really tight breaking sliders, some crazy split finger pitches. What if even a guy throws an eephus pitch? I don't think a computer is going to pick that up. I don't.
No, it's all going to be whether it's between the numbers and the knee, and on inside the black on each side of the plate when it crosses the plate, and if it doesn't, or if it does, then it's a strike, and it could be a 30-mile-an-hour pitch that's thrown 60 feet in the air, but if it comes down like a slow pitch softball pitch, then it's a strike.
And that's what I'm afraid of. I think that's where we're heading if we do it. So I would not like to see them do that. Just my take.
I mean, I hate slow pitch softball. I mean, because
you got hurt.
No. Well, I broke my ankle running, but that was 20 years ago. No, and I hate slow pitch softball because the guys, these artistic pitchers, it's like, and thankfully, like in some of these leagues, they call the guys who throw like a 60-foot pitch, like it comes straight down. They call it an illegal pitch, and then
they call it an illegal right away.
And then you have the freedom. You can still swing it, right? But still, it's ridiculous. If it's just a normal slow pitch softball, then I mean, come on. We're not playing Game 7 of the World Series. It's slow pitch softball. It's for older people. It's for people who, have delusions of grandeur that they could have played in the major leagues or something.
I don't have delusions of grandeur that I could play in the major league. I just enjoy playing.
Yeah, but you don't play slow pitch, right? You play
no, I play slow.
Oh, okay.
But I will play it. It's okay. But I'll tell you this. Sometimes I'll hit that illegal pitch. What I hate more than that is the guy that tries to put backspin on the ball, right? What I've learned to do with a guy that does backspin on it is literally just hit it exactly where he pitches it, right? So then it respins the backspin, and it almost always either goes through the infield or is a perfect line drive. And so it doesn't bother me. It bothers some people, though. It does.
Just to answer Funky Cold Zadina in the chat, he said in slow pitch you have to change your swing to an uppercut swing. See, that's the thing.
No, you don't. Actually, that's a misnomer.
Yeah, I'm
a level swinger now. What you have to do is if you don't do an uppercut swing, because I'm not a home run hitter anymore. There was a time where I could hit a lot of home runs. I can't do that anymore at my age. So you just have to swing level, but you have to wait it out. You have to be patient.
I was the guy, like, I'm the guy who annoys most softball teams, not only because of my charming personality, but because I'm a right-handed batter who hits opposite field.
I do that too.
And they hate that. They usually put their worst fielders in right field because there are not that many lefty batters. And I'm somebody – I'm getting an echo here. Oh, no, it's gone now. I'm somebody who will wait and then just go the other way and hit it down the right field line. And I swear to God, one time the guy who was the first baseman says, don't you pull the ball? I'm like, no. Like, he says,
he actually said that to you? No one said that. I only do it like once a game, but I do it because I'll pull the ball too. But it depends how guys are playing. Like it depends how the infield and outfield are constructed. That's what really matters.
Now, just to touch on this briefly, and then we'll get started. I saw an article, I think it was in the Montreal Gazette, but it got sort of widely circulated on Twitter about Donald Brashear, the former NHL enforcer, played with Philly, played with Vancouver, he played with Philly, I know for sure, played with Montreal, a few other teams. It was discovered that he is working at a Tim Hortons I think it's in the Montreal area, but I know it's in Quebec, in the province of Quebec. And, he fell on hard times. He had some drug and alcohol issues. Somebody who was a friend of his gave him a job at Tim Hortons. And there seemed to be I think a little bit of a smear and a little bit of a shame campaign against Brashear. I mean, Brashear was never a particularly favorite player of mine. Him and Domi had a bunch of things going when they were with Philly and Toronto. But I thought that
not a bad guy, actually.
No, I thought the shaming thing was ridiculous. At least he's working. At least he's trying to earn. You could say he had millions of dollars and he pissed it away on drugs and alcohol. I mean, how many? Give me $1 for every time we've heard that story. But at least he's not homeless. And
showing up for work. There's a reason he's showing up for work.
Right. I don't applaud the situation that he's in, but he is making the best of it now by going to work, earning a bit of a living. I mean, I think people just see the fact that he was an NHL player and made hundreds of thousands of dollars and now see where he is, and they're using that to shame him. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. I wouldn't do that. And I think that's sort of disgraceful. So
it is disgraceful.
All right. And just let me say one more quick thing. Major League Baseball is an unmitigated joke. If what has been reported by, I know it was Dan Shaughnessy of the Boston Globe and a few other outlets, that Major League Baseball changed the balls from the regular season ball that was flying out of the ballpark and wrecking.
Yeah, I heard this too.
And now they've changed the balls for the playoffs. What in the hell are you doing?
Again, I believe Dan Shaughnessy. He's a great writer. If that is indeed true, and there's no reason to believe it's not, I told you, Rob Manfred's doing a bad job here. I mean, why in the world would you do that? What is the motivation for doing that in season, especially when you basically denied it, right? Didn't they deny there was anything with the ball during the season?
Well, he got a quote from an unnamed general manager that said, you know, it would be nice if Major League Baseball would let us know what the rules are or what's going on so we can plan our teams accordingly, because now, in a sense, you've changed the rules in the middle of the game. And teams like Houston and teams like Washington with dominating starting pitching, now they have an advantage because the ball's not going to fly out of the ballpark.
Right. I will say this too. There is no standard for the baseball that's used in Major League Baseball.
Right.
There is no actual standard. That's why every couple of years something else happens, and then Major League Baseball sort of says, I don't know, it's at the factory. Like they don't have full control over it. And that's why we have these issues every 4, 5, 10 years where there's these aberrations. And the fact that they're doing it now, if they're doing it now for the playoffs, that really bothers me. Wow.
All right. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Thursday, October 17th, 2019.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Michael Lagello, and this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com, and we're sponsored by Dunkin' Donuts because Russ is drinking some.
Yeah, I'm drinking.
Okay. We'll start with the games last night. Yeah, there you go. We'll start with the games last night, and there are some interesting rumors that are percolating around the hockey world that we'll discuss. Start with the game that you were watching, Russ, the Edmonton Oilers and the Philadelphia Flyers. Now, I have to say, Edmonton was fortunate that Philly was playing the second of back-to-back games. They played in Calgary the previous night. Oilers win 6-3. Not a particularly good defensive performance by the Flyers, but what did you think of this game?
Okay, so let's do away with all the possible excuses, okay?
Okay.
Back-to-back, all the flying. Because if they'd have won these games, nobody would be complaining.
Right.
And nobody would say, wow, they won these games even though. So let's do away with that. If we do away with that, this game was a disaster. Now, fans and some writers are hanging their hat on the fact that when the game was just 2-1, the Flyers were dominating. Well, guess what? You could dominate all you want. You could have all the shots in the world. You could have all the puck possession. If you don't put the puck in the net, it doesn't matter, right? So then all of a sudden there's this play where they basically throw a bomb and with a puck to Connor McDavid, right? It's the same thing that an NFL quarterback does. They decided, hey, and I'm sure they practiced this, there's going to be probably a couple points in the game where they're just going to test the foot speed of the Flyers defense, which isn't great. And Justin Braun's one-on-one on Connor McDavid, and he can't cover him. He actually probably should have tripped him or at least tried to windmill his stick to get rid of the puck because he saw that McDavid was breaking and there was really nothing he can do. And McDavid just had his way with the puck, scores at 3-1, then it's 4-1. I think it got to be 5-1. And so this game was never close. This game was never a good game for the Flyers.
They got to 6-1.
Yeah, 6-1, because my eyes were fluttering at that point. This is one of those games where everyone needs to stop making excuses, because I'm going to tell you something. That blueprint, and I talked about it earlier in the day on SiriusXM, that is now the blueprint. Everybody has a couple of really fast skaters. The Rangers have Chris Kreider. Everybody's got one. You watch, that play is going to happen again. That is just not a Connor McDavid play. That is going to be a play now where now it's a little different than the stretch pass because it's thrown in the air, but defensemen on the Flyers better watch out for that because as good as Niskanen has been, he and Braun are not the fleetest of skaters anymore. They've slowed down just enough that where some of these elite skaters in the league are faster than them. And the biggest thing you notice when the Flyers play these Western Conference teams as a whole, the team speed does not equal these teams. And that's why they went 0-2-1 on the trip. That's the reason.
And here's a cautionary tale for the Edmonton Oilers. I know that everybody, including Eck, is like, "Oh my God, they're 6-0, they're 6-1-1." You give up 52 shots. Mikko Koskinen makes 49 saves.
He had a great game. He did.
And he had a great game. A, you're not going to get that kind of performance out of Koskinen every game. B, you're not going to get 5 points out of Connor McDavid every game. This is why, when their core group is dominating, and we know that Draisaitl is one of the best forwards in the league, and McDavid is the best player in the league. When that's going at great guns, they're going to win. The problem is that they have nothing else.
Right.
And last night, Draisaitl from McDavid and Klefbom. Ethan Bear from Neal and Nugent Hopkins. McDavid from Klefbom and Russell. Nugent Hopkins from Draisaitl and McDavid. Draisaitl from McDavid. Brandon Manning from McDavid and Cassian. It's all McDavid. It's all Draisaitl.
Oh, it is. I mean, they were double shifting them in that second period when they were down. When they were only up, they were up 2-1. They were double shifting them then to try and pound it because I think they saw that, you know what? Nobody's doing anything here. Let's just put our best guys in, and it worked. So that's also bad for them too, and bad for the Flyers that it did work. Also, another thing, Mike. So Carter Hart got pulled for the second game this year. And say what you want. Hey, this is his fault. This isn't his fault. We can only call him as we see him. Right now, his save percentage is a .904. It's much harder for a young goalie to start a season than to come in and sort of not be the savior, but, hey, see if you could be that spark. We've seen that before. Same with a coach. It's hard to start a season as that guy. Well, he is that guy now, and a .904 is below league average. It is. And so you have to look at that objectively and say, okay, maybe we shouldn't put all this pressure as a fan base on Carter Hart. And I don't think Vigneault is doing that. Actually, I think Vigneault is doing the right thing when he pulls them. The pressure is on these players. And if these players don't start performing, now Voracek did get, I think he got 2 goals in that game, but he got them late. So you can make the argument he got garbage time goals. Van Riemsdyk still doesn't have one. So you can look at some of these players, and I'll go down the list here. If they don't start scoring, a lot of them are going to be in trade talks because this team, this management does not have any link or care to these guys. They're not their guys. Some of them are, some of them that they just brought in and signed, but a lot of them aren't. So they're not going to get the same consideration that they would have in the past. So as an example, point-wise, things you wouldn't expect. Travis Sanheim, 1 point. James Van Riemsdyk, no points. Shane Gostisbehere, no points. Kevin Hayes, 1 goal, but I'll at least say he's playing a pretty complete game. Those things are going to have to change. Oscar Lindblom is tied for their second leading scorer with 4 points in 5 games. And he's still a young player. So you look at that, that has to improve. And if it doesn't, AV will go to management and say, when you can, we need to do something here. Like, that's just the reality of business, the way, especially now, knowing that the Devils are going to have a hard time this season. The Flyers could grab a playoff spot, but not with road trips like this. And this is what I always talk about. And again, I gave it a few games. And if somebody wants to see a bigger sample size, that's up to you. But I do see a difference with them at home and them on the road. No question about it.
Moving on to other games, the Capitals with a 4-3 victory over the Maple Leafs at Capital One Arena last night. Toronto took an early 2-0 lead in that game. Jakub Vrana scored late in the first period to get the Capitals on the board, and then a 3-goal outburst in the span of 1 minute and 18 seconds. Kuznetsov, Backstrom, and Carlson. One of them on a 5-on-3 power play.
That Carlson shot was a blast, though.
Yeah, it was a great play by Ovechkin to set him up.
Yeah.
But really, the Leafs, I don't think, showed much after that. Second of back-to-back games again. They got a goal late in the third from Tavares and tried to tie the game, but really didn't have a lot after that, the 3-goal outburst. And take it the Washington perspective. They haven't been phenomenal to start this year, but you see the makings of a really good team.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's a sense there of this is the year we're going to win it. And after this, there might be some changes because Backstrom's a UFA and Holtby's a UFA. The one thing, Russ, they put in Samsonov again. And I thought, he only one of the first 2 Leaf goals was bad.
Which one, the Kapanen shorthanded?
No, I don't think. He was right. Kapanen had a wide open net.
The one that went over his glove.
It was the Mikheyev goal.
Okay,
but I thought Samsonov played well, and they're, I think, looking to see if he can handle the number 1 duties.
Yeah, I don't see why they wouldn't check that out.
Yeah, I still think there's a possibility they could end up moving Holtby if they think they need something else, and if they think they have enough confidence in Samsonov. But this is a team built for this year.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, and they may let Holtby be like that dreaded own rental, and just because they have Samsonov, they may let it roll that way. But you would think the Flyers, you would have thought the Leafs would have gained more traction with getting a shorthanded goal in that game, and it seemed like early on that was the case. But again, I turned off this game, so I'll rely on you. But my big thing is, what did they do to adjust in this game? What did they do to come back in this game? What did they do? I mean, did they do anything?
They juggled lines a little bit, but that's basically it. And that's the thing. It's like, again, they sort of fell back into what happened.
Who was their 4th line for this one?
They kept the same 4th line. This is the 3rd game in a row they've stuck with the worst of the 2 combos. They went with who I like, Dmytro Timashov and Nick Shore, along with Frederick Gauthier instead of Nick Patan and Spezza.
So how many games have Nick Patan and Spezza played? Like 2?
3.
I mean, this is where Babcock may be costing them wins.
He got a great performance out of that line against Detroit on Saturday, and then stuck with them in a win against Minnesota, and it stuck with the same lineup when they had back-to-back games, and before they had they rotated the two fresh forwards in for the second game. Also, they sent Rasmus Sandin down to the minors. They play Martin Marincin, and I don't care what somebody sent me a video snippet saying, well, Marincin was Marincin's playing left defense. He drifts over to the right side, and the goal scorer, I think it was Kuznetsov, is where Marincin should have been shooting a one-timer pass.
He's one of those guys that goes over the Mason-Dixon line there in the middle that you're not supposed to do.
Yeah, and this is the other thing. Michael Hutchinson played a good game, but he's getting excoriated today by Leaf fans because
you predicted that. You did.
And it's like, okay, but this is the problem. You put your backup in second of back-to-back games against a better team, and what do you expect? I thought he played
a veteran cup team. That's what they are.
Right. Right now, the Leafs are 4-3-1 through 8 games. They have the most goals in the NHL, 31, and the 27th most goals or goals allowed in the NHL at 28. So they've scored 31 goals and they're a +3 in goal differential. I'm sorry. I know that Babcock last week when I was up in Toronto before they played Tampa talked about the team playing well defensively and how they have to model that during the year to have that happen when the playoffs come around. Well, they're not modeling that right now. They're playing fire wagon hockey. They're allowing, they may not be allowing a lot more shots. I think their shots are down, but they're allowing just as many goals as they're scoring, and that's not the way to win. So I don't know. For my mind, I would put Nick Patan and Spezza in for the next game, but the next game is against Boston, so he's probably going to want to put bigger forwards on that fourth line, and Spezza is more of an offensive player, and Patan is a small guy. maybe they call up an Igor Korshkov from the AHL because he scored 4 goals in 4 games. But I just think that this is, this team has not played as well as people expected, but a lot of people thought they were going to struggle early on because of the changeover in their roster. And the ironic thing is that the guys who are struggling are not the guys that they brought in, but the guys who have been there.
Yeah.
So
I'm just answering a tweet because since the Rangers are going to be playing the Devils, this one guy who told me he would take Kakko over Hughes decided to regurgitate that tweet where I wrote to each his own. And I just did in capital letters, too soon.
Yes.
That's my feeling on that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you can't not make decisions after 6 games, 7 games.
It's just, I just don't understand people.
Yeah, I mean, okay, the Carolina Hurricanes and the Edmonton Oilers are going to be the best teams in the Eastern and Western Conference based on the fact that the season started on October 2nd and the season ended on October 17th.
Yeah.
Come on.
I know. I mean,
I understand that the perspective of the younger generation right now is sort of instant gratification and
I don't even know if this guy's younger. I don't think he is based on his picture.
And a small sample window or small sample. But my God. Anyway, moving on. The Pittsburgh Penguins have to be considered a big success story right now with all the injuries that they've had. They're 5-2. They beat the Avalanche 3-2 in overtime yesterday. Sidney Crosby early on might be making a case for the Hart Trophy. I don't think that's being
not outrageous.
Yeah, it's like
I started talking about this last week. I said he is not letting his team go down. He is not.
Yeah, no, and Brandon Tanev gets the game-winning goal in overtime. I'm just checking to see if it was Murray or Tristan Jarry.
I had this conversation where I was saying that he affects so many facets of the game that he could really keep his team in a game and really affect the outcome of a game and really make people play better.
Yeah,
I meant that when I said it, and it was on display.
Yeah, and Matt Murray with 26 saves for the victory. I mean, they need Matt Murray to stay healthy, and they need Matt Murray to continue to play at the level that he usually plays. The one concern is Letang is being severely overplayed as they normally do with him. I think he played 27 minutes last night. They really can't do that, but they continue to do that. They're
going to do it. Like they've done it before, and they'll do it again. And that's the amazing thing about Letang with all the health issues and everything else he's had. Guy's got a lot of heart, man, and he could skate. He could really still skate. The other thing about that game is I have to call out Cale Makar because he did this Cooking with Kale segment, and he was making a smoothie, and he ate kale raw, like just right out of the bag while he was mixing everything in the blender. He was just like, oh, yeah, this is good. And then he was mixing it all in the blender with the sugar and the juice and everything else, and I was like,
gross. Kale and arugula are just gross tasting.
I can even get past arugula a little bit. Kale, it's just you got to do something to it, or you can't eat it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. I don't care if you can't taste it if you put it in a shake. If a shake is green, I'm not drinking it.
I've tried with some of the green stuff.
It's so friggin' gross. I'm sorry. No.
Basically, you know how you have to do it. You have to add copious amounts of sugar to get it down. Like that spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down. Remember that from the Sound of Music? Yeah. That's the only way you make that go down.
Yeah, that and not put it in a clear plastic cup like you're drinking out of. Put it in something that you can't see it. So
even if you blindfold me, I don't think I'm gonna finish.
Yeah, no, it's just gross. I'm sorry. Spinach in a shake does not work.
All right, so let's talk about the Columbus-Dallas game, right? Because I watched a lot of it. And we'll talk about the goal later because that was just a byproduct of that game. The Dallas Stars are in trouble.
Yeah.
They're in trouble, man. They're frustrated. Pavelski is already frustrated at his.
He scored a goal yesterday, though. So
I know, but you could see frustration on him because he's not scoring the way he used to, and he's frustrated. I was, good for Heiskanen for getting it going. And what did they lose? 3-2, right? Because I ended up turning it off. But this was one of those games where, and Corey Perry was in there. Their power play is just awful. It's below 5%. I don't know what it is today. It might be like 3.5%. I don't know what you do with that.
Yeah, I mean they're 1-6-1. I mean, I still stick with what I wrote yesterday. Of those three coaches that are rumored to be in trouble, I think Montgomery is the one that's least in trouble because
I agree, but doesn't mean that changes won't happen.
Right. I mean, right, exactly. And I think that that what could happen because they have more flexibility than some other teams.
Yeah,
they can make a trade, they can move things around, they can shake things up. But right now. I want to wait until we talk until Eck comes on the show to talk about the rumor he posted about Jamie Benn. I honestly don't see, unless again it's a big salary for big salary where you need.
I mean, they might need to shake it up that way. I mean,
yeah, but who's going to? $9.5 million player. That's a tough nut to crack.
It is. They're probably going to have to eat some salary, but I bet you those are the kinds of things they're looking at right now. As we speak, here is the bottom of the bunch in power play percentage. This is hard to believe, but this is where you just wonder what's going on in this league sometimes. New Jersey Devils, they have the same grade point average as a Mr. Blutarski, 0.0. So do the Ottawa Senators.
Daniel Simpson Day, no grade point average.
I should have two straws up my nose when the camera pans on me, but I didn't. Ottawa Senators, 0. Anaheim Ducks, 5.6. Dallas Stars, 4.2. 4.2!
Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, son.
The Kings are 9.5. Those are all the teams under 10%, which, again, I don't know how you do that.
Yeah, I mean, this is totally unforeseen because you look at their defense, Dallas, you look at Lindell and Klingberg and the quality that they and Heiskanen. You look at their forwards. Their forwards were good last year. They bolstered with Perry, although Perry was his first game yesterday, but they bolstered with Perry. They added Pavelski. They have young guys like Hintz coming up. I mean,
I'm not a math major, Mike, but I think Dallas really is the worst power play in the league because they're 1 for 24. New Jersey's only had 18. Ottawa's only had 17. Anaheim, 18. They've had 24. They are 1 for 24.
And Klingberg, well, I think the only team that they're better than is New Jersey because New Jersey hasn't scored one power play goal.
Ottawa, same. Ottawa hasn't scored one either.
Ottawa has, okay, wow. And that's what Thomas Chabot, one of the better young point guys in the league. I mean, that's bizarre. And
again, you want to give John Gibson credit? His team's only scored 1. So Arizona's only scored 2. Chicago's only scored 2. Detroit has only scored 2. There are some really bad teams on the power play, Mike, and you would just think that somebody would figure this out. Maybe teams need to start figuring out a different way of doing the power play. I got an idea. Stop dropping the puck behind you.
Oh, you mean as you're coming up? Yeah, it's not like
that doesn't do anything. Everybody knows how to set up for that. Yeah. I think originally it was a surprise when you went up there and you dropped it behind you, and it's sort of like a misdirection. So maybe you get players to shift. Everybody does it, so it doesn't do anything anymore.
Well, the lost art right now, and it's sad because we've come into this analytic age where puck possession is everything, is the dump in. It's like they have to carry it in the zone, and teams basically what they're doing is they're stacking four up on the blue line, and it's almost impossible. It's very tough to be able to enter the zone, retain it, and set up. Sometimes, it's usually a 50-50 battle where you dump it in the corner. If you win the race, you get the puck and you retain it in the offensive zone.
What I've noticed is a lot of teams are getting 3 guys back, and they're sort of trapping the 1 or 2 players along the side so they outnumber them. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, so what I've noticed is the most common entry tactic is to have your center or whoever is the puck carrier, and normally it's not the defenseman, but you'll have them enter the zone, and as the as the opposing forward or defenseman is standing them up, usually a couple feet inside the blue line, they dish it off to the corner boards.
And there they try and trap that guy.
Right, and then that forward will go to them, and then the point guy is open, and then they work the offense, and usually it's. And remember now, most of these power plays are 1-3-1 with one guy at the side of the net, one guy on the half wall on each side, one guy in the slot, and then the point guy at the power play. And the
Why don't we do the Gretzky office more? That wreaks havoc when you got a guy behind the net. And he's a good passer, and he can handle the puck. Don't you think that that's not only exciting, but hard for the other team to figure out, as well as the goalie?
Well, the thing is now, and what the defensemen who are killing penalties, I guess they drill it in their head to not go behind the net, because that's what the guy with the puck behind the net wants you to do. He wants to draw the PK defenseman to him, and then he floats the puck out in front to an empty space. If they don't go after the guy, then the advantage definitely swings to the penalty killers, because you've got a guy standing behind the net with no outlets.
Right, that's fair. But how often does that happen? Not often. Not often. But you're right. That is the counter for it, but you don't see it anymore. And again, I'm not a power play specialist, so good luck to these teams that are under 10%, man. Wow.
Now, I wanted to tie this to something I saw in the Leafs game last night. The Anaheim Ducks ended the Sabres point streak, handing them their first regulation loss.
Good breaking news. You want to hold up on that? So Valentin Zykov has been suspended for 20 games for violating the terms of the NHLPA Performance-Enhancing Substances Program.
Now, Zykov, was he still with LA, or is he the new team?
Vegas.
Okay. Well.
So now he is the second Vegas player to get a suspension like that.
Nate Schmidt and him. Yeah. Okay. The Ducks Sabres. I caught a little of this live, and then it was a late start, so I watched the rest in a condensed version this morning.
Right.
The Ducks win 5-2. Sabres went up 2-0. Another power play goal by Victor Olofsson. That means 8 career goals, all 8 on the power play, 6 this year. But the Sabres went 1 for 7 on the power play. Anaheim got really physical with them, and the Sabres weren't able to take advantage of their opportunities on the power play. Now, they were at a 60% power play clip going into the Dallas game, and now I'm sure with going 1 for 7, they're probably down in the high 30s or maybe even the 20s. Where I'm a little, and I saw a little bit of this in the game against in the Leafs Capitals game. In the first period, Tom Wilson took a very healthy run at John Tavares. You had Lars Eller and a couple other players. I mean, there was definitely a note on the bulletin board for Washington: get physical with the Leafs. And I think the same note was on the bulletin board in Anaheim from Dallas Eakins: get physical with the Sabres. And the Sabres didn't react well to it. Now, also, Linus Ullmark played badly, and their penalty killing wasn't very good. So a lot of contributing factors. Now, with the Sabres, Russ, again, everything is going right for them right now. They were getting great goaltending. They were getting their power play going well, Eichel scoring. What happens when all those things don't happen?
You're saying that teams are starting to figure them out a little bit on what to get them out of their game that's working right now.
Right. And they're not a physical team. They have size. They're not a physical team. I mean, VC's not exactly a shrimp, and a Pozo and a few other players, but their skill guys are not. Eichel's, he can stick up for himself, but Olafson's not big. Reinhardt's not big. Skinner's not big. Johansson's not big. Right. So I mean, their key players are more skilled, small, speedy guys, and I really think that the realization that happened last year in the playoffs is coming to pass now. You can have success in the regular season with speed and skill, but in the playoffs, you're going to need that plus size and sandpaper, and the teams that can play that way during the regular season have an advantage, and Anaheim's one of those teams.
Yeah, Anaheim is one of those teams. I think, like you said, I think teams are going to start to figure out the Sabres. I think it's a miracle that Anaheim does anything. I do. I really think this is a year where people need to really look at John Gibson and what he's doing, because I just told you what their power play is, and somehow they still have 10 points and are 5-2. Why is that? I mean, it really.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Doing a lot.
I mean, Adam Henrique has got 4 goals. They're getting good performances out of some of their young guys.
And good for Dallas Aikens. He's got them going right.
Yeah.
I give him credit, but I have to give a lot of credit to Gibson. And, yeah, I mean, we did say that everything would have to be right for Anaheim to do anything. And so far, that's what it's been.
Yeah, they can't depend. They can't depend on. I mean, Perry's gone. Kessler's probably done for his career. They can't depend on Getzlaf to be a consistent offensive performer.
I mean, listen to these numbers. Gibson has a 1.85 goals against and a 941 save percentage. I think a 941 would set the record.
Yes, it would. But right now they're getting offense from Henrique and Raquel and Silverberg and some production out of the young guys. And if that happens, and if Gibson keeps this up all year, then they're a playoff bubble team. There's no question they probably make it. Right.
Yeah.
The last game from last night was the San Jose Sharks over the Carolina Hurricanes. I believe that was Carolina's first regulation loss, 5-2. Evander Kane with a hat trick in the first period.
You could see this game coming a mile away, and I think that's why I fell asleep on it after Kane got his first goal. You could just tell what was going to happen in this game. You could. Yeah,
and Martin Jones made 36 saves, which probably is his best performance of the year. Again, I'm just checking here to see. I wasn't sure if it was Reimer or – it was Reimer, of course. Reimer.
Yeah, it was Reimer,
yeah. 4 goals on 21 shots. That's the James Reimer I know and love.
Yeah. I mean – but this was a game where I just never felt like Carolina was going to win. I just didn't. And when I saw Evander Kane score, I was like, this is something that's going to bother them. And then Dougie Hamilton did get a goal. And look, let's give him credit. I've always given him credit, but not everybody has because of the quirkiness of him. He has 5 goals again. He's going to score between 10 and 15 goals every year as a defenseman. Agreed? Can we just all agree on that?
No doubt.
But Kane really did take over this game, and you could see that it was probably going to happen, and there wasn't going to be an answer on the Carolina side for that. So right now, this is something where Carolina has to look at this game and say, all right, we could sort of write it off. That's fine. And there were some great saves in it, no question. But you know what? Yeah, we can't get too carried away with ourselves and our celebrations and everything else that everybody's saying about us because we happen to be in first place. Because you know what? The Sharks are starting to feel it a little bit now that Marlowe's ignited them. And this is what's going to happen. Carolina's going to start going up against some of these veteran teams because they're still a fairly new team with all the players that they've inserted the last 2 years. Agreed?
Agreed.
Even a guy like Edmondson is new to them. So this is going to be a challenge for Rod Brind'Amour, I believe.
Now, let me just check the schedule for tonight because there's a couple other things I wanted to touch on before we start taking questions.
Well, we already touched on the powder keg of the game tonight.
Yeah, well, there are, let's see, Lightning Bruins. That'll be an interesting matchup. Bruins are without David Krejci. He's injured. Charlie Coyle moves up to number 2 center. Number 3 center is former Leaf and Winnipeg Jet Par Lindholm. So that should illustrate the thinness of the Bruins if Krejci is starting to have injury problems again. Wild versus Canadians. The Wild are 1-5, and this is the 3rd game in 4 nights for them playing the Habs. Rangers Devils, as you mentioned. A lot of focus on this one, not only because of Kako versus Hughes, but obviously the Devils struggles right now, 0-4-2. Canucks Blues is a good matchup. Islanders Jets, Red Wings Flames, Predators, Coyotes, Senators, Golden Knights, and Kings and Sabres on the West Coast. Now, Elliot Friedman touched on the.
Can I touch on one thing too?
Go ahead.
For anybody that wants to tweet me that Kakko's better, how does 1 point make him so much better than a guy with no points?
I think they're both going to be good.
That's what I think too. But I don't. Again, I'm going to disagree with everything that happens at the beginning of this game, the lead-in, everything. That this is a battle between Kakko and Hughes. It's not. Right. It is not. This is a battle of the New Jersey Devils against themselves, and the Rangers just to play a decent home game with some injuries. That's the real battle here.
Well, I just have to touch on this because there's proof that this guy listens to what we say. Alexander, New South Wales, in the chat says, I want to know how in the world did Russ miss you two at Live Aid? Sad.
I went to the bathroom.
I know, but he actually remembered that.
That's amazing. I appreciate that. I'm just going to rewind it for the people and I'm just going to say it this way. I got to, was it RFK Stadium at 6 a.m.? JFK, sorry, I always get that wrong. I got there at 6 a.m. I worked the day before. I slept for a few hours. We drove from New York. We get there. We're watching all the Wembley stuff, and they handed out the program, and it dawned on me, I'm going to be here until 11 o'clock or midnight. When am I going to go to the bathroom? Is there going to be any toilet paper? And there you have it.
Yes, I'll share some of my stories from a Van Halen concert back in the day about the bathroom situation some other time. But just to touch on a couple things that were reported and Elliot Friedman's 31 thoughts. He ponders that if the Devils decide to trade Taylor Hall, if they find out that it's going to be impossible to sign him, that one interested team could be the Edmonton Oilers. And wouldn't that be a curious situation? Now, let's
they're not going to trade for him. There is no way that they will trade for him. I'm telling you right now, they would wait for him to go to free agency.
Right, because again, and I know that Ak always thinks I'm unreasonable or irresponsible when it comes to like sort of trade negotiations. If Edmonton is motivated to make the playoffs this year and they want to bring back Taylor Hall, okay, then the first guy I ask for if I'm Ray Shero is Evan Bouchard.
Right.
Or Kaylor Yamamoto, one of their top prospects. If that's a no-go for Ken Holland, then I tell him to go
right.
Height.
I just happen to think that right now Ken Holland, his number one goal there was to get rid of Milan Lucic. He did. So far, that's come up roses for him. The number two goal, I believe, was to rebuild the farm system without sort of giving away the hopes of making the playoffs. And so far, that's working. Why in the world is he going to give up assets for Taylor Hall? Why? In a couple months, you will get him as a free agent. If he wants to come back, you'll have the money because you'll move out another contract. Holland will make sure it happens. I just don't see him giving up assets for that. Now, there will be teams interested in Taylor Hall. I just don't think Edmonton will pay the price. It's the same thing as the St. Louis Rams paid the price for, was it Jalen
Ramsey?
Sorry. Jalen Ramsey. There is a Jalen Edwards for something, though. Anyhow, but Jalen Ramsey, yeah. The Eagles didn't want to pay the price, right? Because the Rams gave up 2 firsts and a 4th.
Yeah. And
apparently that was too rich for the Eagles. That's what it's going to be in this Taylor Hall sweepstakes. And I don't think Edmonton is going to be that team that goes that deep and says, yeah, you know what, we'll give you, a first and Bouchard, and you could, pick another player or another pick from next year's draft.
It makes more sense for a team like Boston.
Yes.
Who needs one more scorer and has got a deep pool of young talent that they can
get him as a rental.
Right, that they can afford to give up a first-round pick or give up, like a young guy like a Zaboro or a Senyshyn plus a draft pick or something like that. Right. That makes sense. And, they made the Cup final last year. Or somebody like Colorado, if they thought they needed more scoring, which they don't. But there are teams.
They might even give up Torrey Krug. If they don't think they can sign Torrey Krug and the Devils think they can, they'll give up Torrey Krug. And that's a hell of a guy to get, right? But they might do it.
Funky said Carolina, maybe as a rental.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might make sense. Another thing from Elliot Friedman, Sabres are another team looking to move a defenseman. I can say, right now, Brandon Montour is probably a couple weeks away from returning.
Right.
They have a fairly solid 6 right now with Dahlin, Miller, Ristolainen, Scandella, McCabe, and Jokiharju. So who comes out? Probably.
None of them are in demand.
No, but Ristolainen is the guy that they want.
Again, you're not trading for Ristolainen in November. Nobody's giving up big assets for that in November when they're not sure of where their team is. Scandella would come fairly cheap, but there's a reason. Scandella's not that good.
Yeah, he's playing bottom pairing for me. He's making $4 million. I mean, one of the teams that Friedman indicated might be interested would be Arizona because Hjalmarsson's out for 3 months. But I don't know what their caps. They don't have a ton of cap space now. They might put Hjalmarsson on LTIR, but do you perceive that the new ownership in Arizona is willing to spend above and beyond the cap, which they would have to do?
I don't think they'll do it.
Right. So. Okay, we'll take some questions in the chat here. So Toronto Greenhouse says Colorado with Taylor Hall would be scary good. I continue to think that if the Avalanche will make a deal before the deadline, it's going to be for a goaltender if they have fear that Grubauer cannot handle.
So far, Grubauer has been really good. So
he has been good. Definitely.
You're right. Anything can change because it's early on. I'm looking, though, if I'm the new owner from Arizona, right? Arizona's ranked 25th in attendance. Their home average is 15.4, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th. Yeah, sixth worst. But Winnipeg has a much smaller rink. So really 5th worst in the league at home. There's not enough revenue to be generated there for me to say, yeah, I'll spend over the cap.
Yeah. All right.
Last, by the way?
What's that?
Who is last in attendance?
Ottawa.
They're second to last.
Okay.
Who's last?
Who's last? New Jersey?
New Jersey is 27th.
I'm getting close.
You're getting close.
It's got to be Florida.
Nope. Florida's third from the bottom.
Okay. Who?
The New York Islanders.
No comment. Toronto Greenhouse.
Stating a fact. That's all I'm doing.
Toronto Greenhouse asked, could Victor Olofsson or Cale Makar win the Calder instead of Kakko or Hughes?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Makar was in my list of guys I thought could win it. Olofsson was on that next. I put out a list, I think, of 6, and I felt like there could be 8 or 10 if you remember. And Olofsson's part of that longer list, but it's hard to whittle them down preseason. Absolutely. I mean, both dynamic players. I think Makar might be able to keep it up longer than Olofsson, but we'll see. I mean, they're both really good.
I love this screen name, El Guapo. Yes, I'm going to spill you so full of lead you can use your you-know-what as a pencil. Okay, there was an average movie, but that line was great. Is there any chance that the Kings can trade Jonathan Quick if he starts playing at least average?
Yes, there's a very good chance. I don't even know if he has to play average. Teams will be interested. I believe that he will be a possibility, a very good possibility to get traded. So, because right now, you look at the crystal ball, it's not getting better for the Kings in the next year.
Now, I talked to Dennis Bernstein from the Fourth Period. He was on the radio show that I do on Thursdays, and we actually talked about the Kings, and that he believes that they're in a rebuild, but they're not in any rush because I think in a situation like Quick, where he's got a lengthy term left, it may mitigate what they can get in return. But the thing is that for them to rebuild, they're going to have to clear some of these long-term salaries. And if it means giving away Carter or Brown or Quick, I mean, and getting maybe draft picks back or a prospect, but not the value that you think that they would get, that might be where they go. Because, I mean, really, they're locked in. They're locked in with these long-term guys, and the only way they can sort of change things there is to move on from them.
And just remember, Gabe Velarde has not even played yet this year.
Yeah, and I mean, we know the injury history there. So, I mean, it's not exactly encouraging. Okay, Anthony Kennard asks, Mike, are you confident in the Leafs' backup goaltending? I am, but my opinion is meaningless. It's whether Mike Babcock and the Leaf organization is. And they played Hutchinson 2 games. In the second of back-to-back, he gave up 5, and then in one goal in the shootout in a loss to Montreal, and then gave up 4 against Washington. He has 2 more back-to-backs this month. If they go 0-4, then they're going to be looking for a backup because Babcock will be doing a Jonas Enroth. They'll be saying, I have confidence. And they can't call up the answer is not internal. They're not going to call up Kazimir Kaskasuo.
No.
And Joseph Wall is 21 or 20.
Calling him up.
They're going to let them play in the AHL. They'll be looking for somebody on the waiver wire or somebody to make a trade with.
Yep.
All right, let's see here. A couple more questions and we'll Avs don't need Hall, but okay, Avs don't need Hall, but he would add another dimension on an already great offense. Yeah, I mean, I was just using.
Where's the question in that?
No, I just was in response. It was in response to what I said about Taylor Hall. I mean, yeah, I mean, it would be.
I always kind of wonder what Toronto Greenhouse is smoking, anyhow. So it's okay.
Well, if it's a greenhouse, we know what he's smoking. Come on, it's legal in Toronto. He can do it. If he has any CBD cream. Sorry. Okay. Who are the coaching candidates who would take over the Devils? I'll go out on a limb and say it won't be Tom Fitzgerald.
Right.
It's a good question. I mean, the thing is, though, I don't know who's on their staff. I don't think that they would go interim because there's too much of the season left.
Right.
Who are the big name? I mean, John Stevens. I mean, you got to remember, some of these guys are assistant coaches of other teams, so they'd be loath to moving to other teams.
They're not going to move an assistant coach to let them have a coach right now.
Right, exactly. So it's going to have to be somebody who's completely out there right now.
Yeah.
Taking into consideration Shiro's connection to first Nashville and then Pittsburgh. Now, the thing is, he had a connection to Pittsburgh, and Hines was the coach in Scranton Wilkes-Barre. So is there anybody in the Pittsburgh chain that is out there? I mean, Michel Therrien's an assistant coach in Philadelphia, so that's not going to happen.
I wonder how steeped is Larry Robinson really with the Blues, right? Because he's not like he's
an advisor. He's
an advisor, and he has coached the Devils before. Maybe they bring him in on an interim. I don't know if he'd be interested, but they might because, maybe he wants to give it one more go. He wasn't great the first time. I get it. But there was also a lot of issues with that team.
Right.
When he took over.
I mean, Mike Yeo.
I don't even think the Flyers would give up Mike Yeo right now.
Yeah, Willie Desjardins.
Yeah, Willie Desjardins would be one. Who was the guy that was the former cop that was the Ottawa Senators coach?
Oh, yeah. Not Corey Clouston.
No. Guy was pretty gruff.
Paul McLean?
Yeah, Paul McLean.
But I know what you're talking about, but yeah, I mean,
around.
I mean, Bob Bugner. I mean, the thing is, you're looking at recycled coaches here.
Yeah, I mean, there's no other way. I mean, right now, that's probably why they did what they did. Yeah. Even though they said John Hines asked for it, and that's fine. Good on John Hines for wanting to improve things, but still not going to matter. At some point, it's going to be an issue.
Goalie FP asks, first of all, is it balmy in Buffalo? And the question is no. It says, question for Russ, how is Cole Caulfield been doing? And could he come up at some point this year?
Well, definitely could come up after his season's over in college, and I fully expect that that's going to happen. Right now, Would I like him to be better? Sure. He's only got 5 points in 2 games. So if you think that's good, then, you know.
Guy Boucher was.
I'm kidding, right? You don't even laugh. Like, come on.
No.
He's got 4 goals. He's got 4 goals and an assist in 2 games.
Yeah, nice pace. Guy Boucher was the other name that was dropped.
Guy Boucher.
I don't know if there's a connection there. Yeah. I mean, the one good thing about Boucher is that he gets results fairly quickly, but then they sort of taper off afterward.
Patrick Waugh. There you go.
Patrick Waugh. Yeah, no, I don't think so. All right, good show, guys. We will be back tomorrow with another edition of the Hockey Buzzcast. For Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thanks for watching, and remember, without